What's up, y'all? It is February 20th, 2024. When Larry Bird was asked about his net worth, he said, I don't really like to talk about money. I just know the good Lord must have wanted me to have it. What's up, y'all? We are the HoopStorians. I'm Tony Styles. This is the best rapper you never heard of and unique. Um, let's get into this day in NBA history. February 20th, 1996, John Stockton becomes the all-time leader in steals at 23-11, passing Mo Cheeks. Where do you rank Stockton all time, and what range? And do you think he has a legitimate case to be arguably the greatest point guard of all time?
He has a legitimate case to be the greatest point guard of all time. And you were asking where do I rank him as far as greatness, just in
Yeah,
general?
like top 30, top 20. Where do you have him?
He's in the top 30.
hmm
Um, I don't know if he's in my top 20, but he's in my top 30.
What do you think the argument for him is to be the greatest, despite the fact that he never hit 20, he never won a title, he never had MVPs, nothing like that, as opposed to guys like Magic, Curry, things like that?
I mean, you don't think those are good arguments or good enough arguments?
That he never had an MVP and he's the greatest? No, I don't think that would be a good argument.
No, 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 no. I'm saying the fact that he's never had an MVP. He wasn't a point guard averaging like 20 points. He doesn't even have a ring. Like these would be points as to why he may not be in somebody's top 20 or top 30 or top
No,
10.
that's what I asked you. I said, "Do you think he has an argument for the greatest point guard of all time?" And then you said, "I do think he has an argument," and that's what I was
Oh,
saying.
for all time.
Despite
I
not
thought you
having
meant
these things.
no, no. I thought you meant on a list. My bad. I misinterpreted what you were saying. No,
Okay,
he's not the greatest of all time. No.
okay. Well, that was this day in NBA history. All right, we got a guest coming on tonight. He's going to help us with the voting. His name is JT Next Door. Yo, JT, you hear us?
Yeah, I hear you guys perfectly, sir. Loud and
What's going
clear.
on,
All
bro?
right. All right, cool. So we're gonna get into the greatest teams in the Central Division. We just gonna kind of read off the numbers. We're gonna pick, who we think would win and why. Voting system. Obviously, the team that gets 2 votes or more moves on,
Hmm.
and we just keep ranking them like that. You ready for it, Jay?
Yep.
All right, let's get into it. Okay, so we're gonna start with the Pistons. I think there's really just I kind of shrank them down to do real quick. I think only 3 really have the claim. If somebody else has got a different one, let me know. I got the 88 Pistons, I got the 89 Pistons, I got the 90 Pistons, I got the '04 Pistons, '05 and '06 Pistons. So
Right.
kind of that collection of groups that won titles and that were there, before, after. Some had injuries, some won more games, some, just various things. So we're gonna go ahead and get into it. The first team we got up, we got the 88 Pistons. They went 54-28. They beat Washington in 5. They beat Chicago in 5. They beat Boston in 6. They lost to the Lakers in 7. They were up 3-2. Isaiah Thomas sprained his ankle, and the Lakers fans ran onto the court with a couple seconds left and messed up the last shot for the Pistons. They were
Wow.
6th in offensive rating, 2nd in defensive
Hmm.
rating, 3rd overall in net rating. They had guys like their key guys were like Isaiah Thomas, Joe Dumars, Adrian Dantley, Bill Lambert, Vinny Johnson, Dennis Rodman, John Sally, Rick Mahorn, and James Edwards. We're going to match them up first against the '06 Pistons. They went 64-18. They beat Milwaukee in 5. They beat Cleveland in 7. They lost to Miami in 6. They were ranked 4th. They had a net rating in offense 4th. They had a defensive rating of 5th, and a net rating of 2nd. Some of their key guys were Billups, Hamilton, both Wallaces, Tayshaun Prince, Antonio McDyess. So I'm gonna go to you first, Neek. If the '88 Pistons played the '06 Pistons, who you got and why?
I think I'm going with the 88 Pistons. I do believe that Isaiah contributed to why they lost, like that injury. And I feel as though just that team, them bad boys, even though I don't know, it's difficult. I'm going with the 88. I'm going with 88 though. I like that legacy a little better. I like their defense. I like their toughness a little better. So that's really what it is. It boils down to the toughness for me.
I got you. JT, who you got? '06 Pistons versus '88 Pistons.
Personally, I'm going with the 88 Pistons, and I feel like it's pretty simple. I think they'll beat them in like five. Mostly due to the scoring depth. I don't feel like the '06 Pistons have nearly as much depth as the '88 Pistons. I feel like off the bench, they have guys like Adrian Dantley, who was out of his prime, but of course is still one of the best scorers you've ever seen.
Leading
Bill
scorer in the playoffs for that team.
Yeah, as well as Bill Laimbeer, who can crash the boards, Dennis Rodman, who can crash the boards. They have a guy in Isaiah Thomas, who was a top 10 player in the league at the time. I don't feel like the Pistons in '06 had a player like that. And I feel like especially in NBA history, you see that it's rare for a team to beat an all-time great team like that without a great superstar like that. So I just feel like that's one of the main reasons why I feel like the '88 Pistons would take that home pretty easily in comparison to the '06 Pistons.
See, I actually would go with the '06 Pistons. I think the complex schemes, I think they understood the three-point line better. I think that they had studied players like that from the past. I think the length of it, like someone like a Tayshaun Prince, would bother someone. Like, you have a 6'3" Joe Dumars against a 6'6" Rip Hamilton. You have a 6'1" Isaiah against a 6'3" Billups. Obviously, I'm in the minority in this, and obviously the '88 Pistons are moving on. But yeah, I would have gone with the '06. I think they dominated the league, and until they ran into a extremely hot Wade, I think Wade at his peak was better than Isaiah at his peak. I think Isaiah arguably is greater overall, but I think if you're talking one season or to carry a series for one game, I would probably go with Wade because he's the bigger player. He can get the shot off better, block more shots, guard more positions. So that's who they lost to, and they lost to an old Kareem and things like that. So yeah, I would go with the '06 Pistons. But hey, fuck what I say. '88 Pistons moving on. Let's move up to the next one. We got the '89 Pistons. They went 63-19. They swept Boston. They beat Milwaukee in 4. They beat Chicago in 6. They beat LA in a sweep. They were 7th in offensive rating. They were 3rd in defensive rating. They were 4th in net rating. Then we have up against them is the '05 Pistons. They went 54-28. They beat Indiana in 6. They beat Miami in 7. They lost to San Antonio in 7. They were 17th in offensive rating, 3rd in defensive rating, 6th in net rating. Some of their key players were Billups, Hamilton, Wallace, both Wallaces, Prince and McDyess. And the '89 Pistons, they had all the same players, except instead of Dantley, they replaced him with Mark Aguirre, who at his peak was 28, 29 a game. So we'll go to you first. Again, Neek, who you got, '89 Pistons or '05 Pistons, and why?
I mean, these is pretty much the same teams. I went with '89. I still feel like that unit was a better unit than the team from '05.
Okay. Keep it short and sweet. What about you, JT? Who you got?
I'm keeping it the same. I'm going with the '89 Pistons. Even though defensively, I'm taking the '05 Pistons, but if we're talking about a team that the '89 Pistons are basically, if IT was healthy last year, and they dominated the rest of the league. They swept through every other opponent, in exception to the greatest player of all time and his squad. Like, that just shows you how dominant that team was, and especially with a healthy Isaiah Thomas. Even though how great defensively that '05 Pistons was, I don't feel like offensively they'll be able to keep up with the '89 Pistons.
See, I feel like I'm going to go with the '89 Pistons too, just based off their championship run. They beat Magic, they beat Kareem, they beat Bird, they beat Jordan, and the only person that could get off wins off of them were Jordan, who's arguably the greatest player of all time. He got 2 off them, and it was a much further away series than a 6-game series would suggest. So yeah, I have the '89 Pistons moving on. Basically too, then we have after that, so it's a sweep for that one. We have the '90 Pistons versus the '04 Pistons. Basically, it's the same teams both ways. Except let's see, the '05 Pistons 54-28. I'm sorry, the '04 Pistons, 54-28. They beat Milwaukee in 5. They beat New Jersey in 7. They beat Indiana in 6. They beat the Lakers in 5. They were 18th in offense, second in defense, second in overall net rating, and in 90 they went 59-23. They swept Indiana. They beat New York in 5. They beat Chicago in 7. They beat Portland in 5. They were 11th in offense, second in defense, third in net rating. JT, who you got first? We'll go 90 Pistons versus '04.
Actually, I'm gonna do a little switch up. Even though how much I love the Bad Boys, I'm gonna go with '04 Pistons. And if you look at that 1990 run from the Detroit Pistons, statistically, that is one of Isaiah Thomas's weaker playoff runs. As you know him as a great playoff translator, great resilience. That run, he wasn't really that consistent, which translated to Joe Dumars being looking like the best player during that championship run. I feel like the '04 Pistons, they went against a guy like Kobe Bryant, who looked at that time was having conversations to be better than Shaquille O'Neal. That's around the time when people say he surpassed Shaq. And people talk about how bad Kobe was. People don't give the Detroit Pistons enough praise for how well they schemed against Kobe Bryant. And I feel like if we look at how inconsistent Isaiah Thomas was during that playoff run, we can really deduce that the Detroit Pistons do an amazing job scheming against a guy like Isaiah Thomas.
What about you, Nick?
I was leaning towards the '04 Pistons as well. I hated the fact that they ended up beating my Lakers, but that's kind of what edged them because they broke up that dynasty. They were able to come in and beat what was seen as not necessarily an unbeatable team, but the Lakers were showing dominance in their finals runs, and for them to beat them in a fashion that they did suggests a lot to me. So I'm
Yeah,
edging. Oh,
yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and go '04 too because just for all the reasons you said as well. Like we said, we talked about they held Kobe to 17 points a game over the last 3 games of that series. He only shot what 40% overall throughout the whole series. They Ben Wallace is the greatest, and I get when Ben Wallace was coming up, Shaq was on his way down. But if you look at the series, Ben Wallace beat Shaq in Chicago. He beat Shaq, and when Shaq was in Miami, he beat him when he was in LA. Ben Wallace was a great equalizer for that. Also, too, what I don't think gets enough credit talked about in that run is they beat the number 1 seeded team in the Indiana Pacers in the conference finals in 6. Nobody had them beating them. They beat the 2-time defending champs New Jersey Nets in the second round, and then they beat. I mean, there was really nobody on Milwaukee back then. Michael Redd, but that's about it. So yeah, I would go with the '04 Pistons too for those reasons. So moving on, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna give the '89 Pistons their first run because they won the most games, had the best playoff run. We're gonna give them a bye to the finals. Up next, we have the '88 Detroit Pistons against the '04 Pistons. Just remember their rankings were 6th in offense, 2nd in defense, 3rd in net rating. That's the '88 Pistons. And the '04 Pistons had an 18th ranking in offense, 2nd in defense, 2nd in net rating. JT, who you got in that matchup, '88 or '04?
Again, like I feel as if the '04 Pistons would just be way too much for the '88 Pistons. We're talking about a team, and I just not realized that when I thought about where they ranked them on the league and relating back to how they schemed against Kobe Bryant. It's crazy that even the best defense statistically that year, one of the best defensive statistically all time in the San Antonio Spurs in '04, couldn't even
Mm-hmm.
scheme against Kobe Bryant. And that is one of the Kobe Bryant's most resilient series is against the '04 Spurs. And for the Detroit Pistons to give Kobe Bryant possibly his worst series ever is just something I just can't ignore because you have a group of guys in the '88 Pistons who I don't feel like is nearly as resilient as Kobe Bryant. They don't have a guy in Shaquille O'Neal who they can possibly slow down. I feel like what they'll do to a guy like Bill Laimbeer will possibly be even worse because they don't have the interior presence like an '04 Shaquille O'Neal to keep them in some games. So I feel as if that'll just be way too much for the '89 Pistons to handle, and the '88 Pistons, excuse me, to handle. But I ultimately give it to the '04 Pistons.
What you got for us, Sneak?
yeah, it seems like for one that length might be a little bit too much, and the fact that like Jay is saying, they were able to hold Kobe the way that they were because offensively, as far as who Detroit had, they don't have those kind of threats like a Kobe and Shaq were. They had they had Isaiah, who's a Hall of Famer. They had Dumars. They had players that can come through, but at the same time, they didn't have the players that were as dominant as a Shaq was, as dominant as a Kobe appeared to be. So to be able to neutralize them, yeah, that's why I went with '04. I feel as though they had learned enough from the past. Like you were saying before, at that point in time, that era that they were playing in, they were better equipped to go up against a team like the '88 Pistons.
See, what I like is play a little devil's advocate, and I'm kind of neutral on this. I think the '88 Pistons had so much more depth though. And that's where they had, guys like Rick Mahorn, James Edward, John Sally, Vinnie Johnson coming off the bench. And you had guys like Lindsey Hunter giving you 4 a game. You had guys like Eldon Campbell giving you 2 a game. Guys like, Corliss Williamson giving you 6 a game. So that's where I think the '88 Pistons would have it. However, though, what would lean me to go with the '04 is they won the title. '88 didn't. So, and like we said before, we don't know who's going to win. This is just our thoughts. So I would give the edge to the '04 Piston. I do have a question. How long do you think Ben Wallace could guard Lambeer without punching him? Like, what game
Without
do you think
punching
that
them,
happens? With what game do you think that happens?
Game 2.
hold on, is Ben Wallace a puncher like that though?
Well, I mean, he was willing to throw down with Artest. What I'm saying is before he wants the static. And Lambeer with him elbowing you, choking you, fish hooking you. Yeah, I mean, you got to punch at that point.
Wallace seems like he's a little more mild mannered than that, but then again, if Lambeer is
Well, look what he did to
antagonizing,
Artest.
yeah, I mean, yeah. Game, I say he'd make it to game 2 at least. I think he'd make it to game 2.
All right, so we're moving on. We got the championship. We have the '89 Pistons. They were 7th in offense, 3rd in defense, 4th overall in net rating versus the '04 Pistons, 18th offense, 2nd defense, 2nd net rating. Who you guys got? Neek, I'll throw it to you first.
I went with the '04 Pistons on this one actually.
Why?
Same reasons as before. Them breaking up that Lakers dynasty for real. I don't know. I just feel like that team might be better offensively as well. So yeah. I can't forget about the defensive play. Tayshaun got on Reggie. Things like that come to mind where I just think about, again, it's back to the length. Like, even though.
Hey, one thing that we hadn't factored in, because they're both Hall of Famers, who do you think's a better coach, Chuck Daly or Larry Brown?
I want to say Chuck actually, but I'm partial to Larry Brown. Like, I love Larry Brown, but I think I'm leaning towards Chuck.
I got you. What about you, JT? Who you got in the matchup, and then who you got in the coach?
Possibly, this is possibly the toughest one, but we're talking.
I'll tell you what. I'll give you the split because I have the '89 Pistons. They had a more dominant run. They beat more dominant players. They had a deeper team. I think they had the better player in Isaiah Thomas. However, though, I like Larry Brown better as a coach. So it's 1-1. Votes on you.
Honestly, most of my arguments against these late '80s Pistons is Isaiah Thomas, and I feel as if I'm gonna give it to the '89 Pistons mostly because you look at who actually was capable of beating those mid 2000s Pistons. They were accompanied by a superstar level player who overproduced in the postseason. You had your Tim Duncans, even Manu Ginobili was capable of boosting himself. Now that you have a guy like Adrian Dantley, Joe Dumars, Isaiah Thomas, who consistently overproduced in the postseason, I feel like that's just way too much, and that fits the common theme when it comes to beating those mid 2000s Pistons. So I just feel like that would just be way too much for the Pistons, and I don't feel like they'll be able to scheme against that team as well as they can scheme against others.
I got you. I also like the resilience that team had. That team had been fighting. That team was on a mission. That team felt like they got robbed in. That team felt like they got robbed in '88 with the ankle sprain. They felt like they got robbed in '87 with this stupid inbound pass by Isaiah Thomas. So I mean, that's what they always said. We just felt we were tougher. We didn't have the talent. We always felt we were tougher than them. So there you guys have it. We have the '89 Pistons is the greatest Pistons team in franchise history. Let's move on to Milwaukee. So Milwaukee had a few teams. I really shrank it down. There was about 4 or 5 Korean teams I could have picked. I just went with the championship team for obvious reasons. I went with the one of the '80s teams best team. I went with one of the 2000 best team, and then I went with what I think Giannis's best team was. Anybody else want to throw any other teams in the mix? Anybody feel like anybody's been slighted?
Are the 85 Bucks there?
No, I have the '86 Bucks though, because they went further in they won 2 less games, but they went a round further in the playoffs than the '85. So I picked the '86 over the
Okay.
'85. That's what I'm saying. I'm
can
trying to get the best from those groups.
Yeah, I can deal with that. I can deal with that.
Okay. So, what about you, Nick? You got any problems with the selections?
Nah.
All right, cool. So the first up, we're gonna have the '71 Milwaukee Bucks. They went 66-16. They beat the Dubs in 5. They beat the Lakers in 5, and then they swept Baltimore in 4. Obviously, they were number 1 all across the board. Number 1 in offensive rating, number 1 in defensive rating, number 1 in net rating. Some of their key players was Kareem. If you've watched this program before, I absolutely love Bob Dandridge. As far as old school players go, they had Oscar Robertson, John McLaughlin, Greg Smith, Lucius Allen, Bob Boozer. That was that team. We're going to put them up against the '01 Bucks that made it to the conference finals. They went 52-30. They went 3-1 against Orlando. They beat Charlotte in 5. They lost to Philly in Game 7, which a lot of people say is a travesty because they only had they had a 13 different free throw disparity, and Dikembe Mutombo for some reason went to the line 19 times that game, which was about the total that the Bucks went to. They had guys like Ray Allen, Glenn Robinson, Sam Cassell, Irvin Johnson, the less talented one, not Magic. They had Tim Thomas. They had Jason Caffey, Scott Williams, Lindsey Hunter. They were first in offense rating. They were 20th in defensive rating, 7th overall. JT, we'll go to you first. Who do you got, the '01 Bucks or the '71 Bucks?
As much as I love the '01 Bucks as a team, I gotta go with the '71 Bucks because there's nothing that the Bucks could have physically done, I feel like, to stop Kareem. Nothing. And that's just simply playing. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is one of the most resilient playoff performers you've ever seen. I feel like there's nothing the Bucks can do to really stop him.
Do you feel like how do you feel Oscar would have done in that series?
I feel like Oscar would have done pretty well. He's also a great playoff performer. Of course, he isn't nowhere near Kareem Abdul-Jabbar as a playoff performer, but he's still absolutely phenomenal. We're talking about a guy, one of the best playmakers of all time. And I feel like another reason why the 76ers did so well against the Bucks is Allen Iverson as a playmaker as well. I feel like he did like his gravity, his ability to get teammates open through his threat level. I feel like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Oscar Robertson will feast off of the Bucks' fear of one of them, and that will get a lot of their other teammates open. I feel like that playmaking gap is just way too big for the Bucks to match up against.
Gotcha. What about you, Nick? Who you got?
Well, with the '71 Bucks, I feel as though overall Kareem is the better player out of everybody, out of both of these teams. For one, for two, I do recall the '01 Bucks, but I do not feel as though if we were to take Ray Allen, we were to take just that squad. I don't think as far as greatness, I don't feel like they would have been as great. They weren't number 1 across the board. They're not the type of team that was going to win any titles. They did go up against Iverson, but at the same time, Iverson was the best player they was going up against on that team. So it was not like their competition against Philly was really that great, and they still lost. So yeah, I'm going with '71 because I feel like that team was the mask Philly.
Yeah, I went. I'm gonna go ahead and go with the '71 Bucks as well. Like I said, I think one of the underrated pieces of that is Bobby Dandridge. Not only that, I think that that 71 Bucks team is an all-time underrated team. Nobody really understands just how good they really were. I think another factor coming into it is those Bucks teams, for lack of a better term, and I guess I'll have to come up with a better term in this later on, is like, let's say Ray Allen was the best player. Ray Allen was a B-level superstar. Ray Allen was never considered that. You wanted Vince Carter over him. You wanted McGrady over him. You wanted Kobe over him. You wanted Iverson over him. You got Ray Allen if you could not get those people. Ray Allen took a backseat to Paul Pierce, who took a backseat to Garnett, who took a backseat to Duncan, who took, you know what I mean? It's just all these levels down. Not to say he's not a great player or whatever, but if that's your best player, we saw what you were doing with him, and you just weren't doing that. So yeah, I got the 71 Bucks as well. Next up, we're gonna go ahead and go the 86 Bucks. They went 57-25. They beat the Nets in 3. They beat the 76ers, the Dr. J, Moses Malone, Charles Barkley combo in 7, and then they got swept by Boston. They were fourth in offensive rating, second in defensive rating, second overall net rating. They had guys like Paul Pressey, Sidney Moncrief, Craig Hodges, Terry Cummings, Ricky Pierce, Alton Lister, Randy Brewer. We're going to go ahead and put them up against the championship Bucks from a few years ago, 21 Bucks, 46-26. That's a 52 win pace if they played 82 games. They swept Miami. They beat Brooklyn in 7. They beat Atlanta in 6. They beat Phoenix in 6. They had 6th in offensive rating, 10th in defensive rating, 4th in net rating. They had guys like Middleton, Holiday, Pat Connaughton, Robin Lopez, PJ Tucker, Bobby Portis. They had this one other dude that was pretty good too. Giannis. They had him too. So, JT, who you got out of the 86 Bucks versus the 21 Bucks?
That's tough. I'm gonna throw a curveball out there, and I'm gonna say the 86 Bucks. In the sense that we're talking about a team that is the second best defense in the league, behind, of course, the 86 Celtics, who is one of the best units. Period. Not just offensively, not just defensively. Period. So I feel like the common denominator is Giannis. And I feel like if you look at any team that was capable of beating or slowing him down, they're a lot like the Milwaukee Bucks, who have a lot of perimeter defense, like Sidney Moncrief. You have a guy in Terry Cummings who can average around 20 to even nearly 30 a game in the postseason on amazing, phenomenal efficiency. I feel like another factor, which is crazy to me, is Jordan's lowest averaging playoff series as a totality is against that 85 Bucks team. I feel like that goes a lot into it. They got a lot deeper. I feel like they got better defensively. I feel like that's just way too much for me, for Giannis to handle, especially with Chris Middleton and Jrue Holiday's inconsistencies in that playoff run.
Okay. What about you, Nick? Who you got?
That was compelling. I think I'm going with for real. I think I'm going with the championship Bucks though. The reason being is because, and I do understand the argument of if you can neutralize Giannis, what else can you expect out of that team? Because there is inconsistencies with the number 2 and the number 3, but that sheer willpower that Giannis displayed throughout the finals, especially in that final game, it was like watching a person literally will his team to victory until they came with it. It was like watching him just take over the entire game until people were willing to contribute. And I feel as though there's no stopping. Like Giannis's bag, I don't feel like there's a decade. I don't feel like there's an era stopping that. So I'm putting my faith in a Greek freak.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and go with the 21 Bucks too. And this is the reason why, though, is you got guys like Paul Pressey, Moncrief, Pierce. Those are your perimeter players. Well, you got Ricky Pierce. He's a 6'4" small forward. Chris Middleton's 6'8". How's he 6'4" small forward? Chris Middleton's a 6'8" small forward. How is he stopping him? What, we're gonna have Alton Lister on the perimeter guarding Lopez, or are we gonna put him on Giannis? Or are we gonna have Cummings out there? I was watching Kemp light up Alton Lister. How is he gonna stop Giannis? How is Randy Brewer gonna stop it? I don't like their front line. I like Terry Cummings as far as rebounding and scoring on the low block, but it's not going to equal out the threes they're hitting. and he's not going to. Terry Cummings was awesome, especially with the Clippers. Was when he was really getting, what was his best? I think it was 23.7 was his best year. So yeah, he was a strong 20 and 10 guy for his first couple years, but after that he never got back to 20 and 10. I don't know why. I actually Paul Mokeski, he's on this channel too. I was trying to ask him why once as well, because he played with him, and he didn't really give me the answer of why that is. But yeah, I just think it's entirely too much firepower. I think they're too small. I think you got guys like Drew Holiday. He's playing the point at 6'4". Your small forward 6'4". So that's where, and we've just never seen something. And ultimately, the biggest thing to me is the best player in the series is Giannis. You were giving me examples, JT, of like Terry Cummings averaging almost 30 in a series, shooting a good percentage. Giannis gets you 31, shooting 63%. If you're scoring over 30, shooting over 60, that's just hard to beat. So I'm going to go ahead and go the Bucks too. So what we have now in the finals, we got the 71 Bucks versus the 21 Bucks. We got 1-1-1. They're all ranked all 1 to 71 Bucks in every rating. 21 Bucks were 6, 10, and 4. Offense, defense, net. JT, I'll throw it to you first. Who you got? 21 Bucks or 71 Bucks?
71 Bucks.
Tell me why you think that is.
My reason for that is, again, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Alongside is, if you look at that 21 run, you notice that the best defense that the Bucks played were the Miami Heat, and you realize that was Giannis's worst series during that run by far. You put him against a guy like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who has the size to actually contend with Giannis and deal with Brook Lopez at the same time, and I have a lot of faith that that's one of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's best years on the interior, and I feel like he can do an amazing job on both. Again, that were even the fourth best rebounding team in the league. They can contend with the Milwaukee Bucks on the board. They have the size to contend with them. I ultimately feel like the Bucks being not even an elite defense anymore will just be way too much of a flaw and a lot for Kareem Abdul-Jabbar to manipulate. So I just feel like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is just way too much for the Bucks to handle. They did not have to face a player that is as resilient or as consistent in the postseason like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Couple quick questions on that though. As far as that goes, like I don't think anybody can stop Kareem's skyhook, but why wouldn't they put Kareem on Lopez? And if they're not putting Kareem on Lopez, who is putting on Lopez? And then if Kareem's not on Lopez, Lopez has a huge advantage on the block because Lopez came into the league averaging 20. Obviously not coming in the league, but averaging 20 on the block, not shooting threes. That's question one. Two, how does Kareem stop Giannis's drives? I don't think Kareem has the lateral movement as Giannis is going back and forth with that. So one, who guards Lopez then, and then who does the and then how's Kareem, if he is on Giannis, how's he stopping those drives?
I ultimately just feel like that's a lot of questions that a lot of people ask during the Bucks run, and I feel as if mostly Brook Lopez isn't as much as a threat as he was when he came into the league offensively. You saw him slow declining on offense, but heavily increasing on the defensive side of the ball.
Right.
Which I don't feel like the Bucks really are going to worry about that in a way. And you think about how he's going to guard Giannis. He's not going on the perimeter with Giannis. Kareem's not going to do that. I feel like simply Kareem is going to be the major building block on a wall that the Bucks are going to implement on Giannis. And you should realize that every team that has successfully built a wall on Giannis had a massive interior presence. The Heat, Bam Adebayo, Raptors, Kawhi Leonard, and then you have the Bucks with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And I feel like that's just way too much for Giannis to handle.
Gotcha. What you got, Nick?
I actually feel the same. I'm actually going with the 71 Bucks. For me, it boils down to the fact that when I was picking the what was that, 21?
Yeah.
When I was picking them, part of the reason is because I didn't feel as though there was anybody that was capable of stopping Giannis. I've seen that team itself was very inconsistent. That team itself sometimes would show up, and when they did, it was great. But other times, they just couldn't pull it together. And I feel as though if we are comparing the superstars, whereas because this is the biggest stage, if we're having to pit Kareem against Giannis, I feel as though his leadership with his team and the type of players that he had working with him, I see them being a more consistent unit to get him where he needs to go versus the 21 Bucks. I feel as though the 21 Bucks without Giannis, they weren't really. I mean, that wasn't really that big of a threat of a team, and that's not to take away from Middleton. It's not to take away from Holiday, or there's none of them. But without Giannis, that team is not a contender. Whereas with Kareem, I mean, this team is going one across the board. You remove Kareem, how bad of a team are they without him?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I'm going with the 71.
Okay, well, hold on. Before I go into this, I just got to put this up here real quick. Hold on. Okay, I gotta go on a little rant here, just real quick, and I mean this as nicely as possible. But what the fuck are y'all talking about right now? Let's just get this straight. If we had Drew Holiday, right? None of those guys on the perimeter know how to play defense without hand checking. None of these motherfuckers. You know what I mean? And that's great if we're playing against second round team, conference final team. I'm with all that shit. But none of these dudes know how to play defense without hand checking. We'll start off there. So if we got current rules, none of these motherfuckers can play defense, and we only got a 7-game series for them to adjust the entire way they've been playing their entire fucking life. Okay, that's one. Secondly, if we bring back hand checking, you know how much of a fucking ball hawk Drew Holiday is going to be? That nobody's going to be able to stop and bring up the fucking ball against him. Finally, threes are worth more than 2. And not only that, if you watch the games from back then, they played in the box. The closer shot, the better. And now we play expanded. They can't play defense side to side. And you know what's ultimately mostly fucked up? None of this shit matters because I'm outvoted. So there you guys got it. We have the 71 Bucks moving the fuck on, despite what the fuck I think. So we have the 71 Bucks moving on. That's what we got here. Okay, so let's move on to the Pacers next. So I got for the Pacers, I have the 14 Pacers. I have the 14 Pacers. I have the 04 Pacers. I have the 2000 Pacers, and I have the 98 Pacers. Does anybody want any other Pacers teams included?
No. Not that I can think of off the top of my head now.
All right, just real quick, I got the 98 Pacers because they went toe-to-toe with Jordan, lost in 7, and there's an argument that if they had home court advantage, they would have won it. I got the 2000 Pacers that went to the finals. I got the record-setting Pacers 61, and then I have the other Pacers that went to 56. So we'll get into this right now. We have the 56. We have the 2014 Pacers. They went 56 and 26. They beat Atlanta in 7. They beat Washington in 6. They lost to the Heat in 6. They were 23rd in offensive rating, 1st in defensive rating, 6th in net rating. Their key guys were Paul George, Lance Stevenson, George Hill, David West, Roy Hibbert, Luis Scola, C.J. Watson. Were a couple guys on there as well. Next up, we have the. Hold on one second. Shit's not pulling up for me. Here we go. And then we have the. We're going to go ahead and go with the 98 Pacers. They went 58 and 24. They had a offensive rating of 4th, defensive rating of 5th, net rating of 5th. They beat Cleveland in 4. They beat the Knicks in 5. They lost to the Bulls in 7. Their key guys were Reggie Miller, Mark Jackson, Rick Smith, Dale Davis, Antonio Davis, Chris Mullin, Jalen Rose, Derek McKee, Travis Best. We'll go with you first, Nick. Who you got? 98 Pacers versus the 14 Pacers.
98 Pacers. I feel like that's a deeper unit. I feel as though that was one of those teams that actually could have won it all. I feel as though Ron Artest and this is when he was still offensive. This is when Artest is getting buckets. Reggie is out there.
No, the 98 Pacers didn't have Artest. 98 that lost to 7 against the Bulls.
I didn't mean Artest. I was thinking, what's his name? Best.
Yeah.
Travis Best is out there still getting buckets at this point in time. Reggie Jalen is out there getting buckets. And then you got the Davis. I don't know if they brothers or just got the same last name. The Davis,
the same last name. They always called them brothers.
Right. That's Towers in there. You feel me? You ain't getting around them, or even Smiths. You feel me? I just feel like that unit collectively was one of them units that had all of the pieces that you needed to win. And I feel as though that was a better squad. So I'm going with 98.
What about you, JT? Who you got? 98 Pacers and 14 Pacers.
Honestly, I'm going to go with the 2014 Pacers. And I don't know if that's a hot take, But if you notice, with this Pacers team, like Reggie Miller to be very, very resilient.
Mm-hmm.
And what you notice is he wasn't as resilient against the Chicago Bulls as we thought he was in years previous. He shoots 41% this year. And what I noticed looking at the 2014 Pacers team, as Neek was discussing, they you look at teams they played like the Washington Wizards. They shut down an off-ball guy like Bradley Beal. They shot down a guy like John Wall, and the Pacers don't have a John Wall guy. They shut down John Wall to 37% from the field. They shot down Bradley Beal to 18 a game, who is great off the ball. We bring up Reggie Miller being the best off-ball player of all time, debatably, but they'll shut him down just as well as the Chicago Bulls did. Statistically, the Indiana Pacers are a better defense than the 98 Chicago Bulls. And I feel like the only reason we're not talking about the Pacers versus the San Antonio Spurs in the NBA Finals 2014, they ran into LeBron in his best finishing season period. And I feel like that's probably the only superstar in the league that year that did an amazing job against that team. And I feel like that's just way too much for a team that doesn't have that superstar level guy that was able to stop that Pacers team that year.
So I'm going to go with the 98 Pacers though. But I want to touch on some things you said. One, I think Reggie Miller is extremely overrated. He's considered a scorer. He played 18 years in the league. He only averaged over 25. He never once hit 25. He only went to 5 All-Star games in 18. He averaged 3 rebounds, 3 assists, and his crossover was he would hold the ball and do this and
Mhm.
shake it at you. So he couldn't dribble and all that. So I don't think the Bulls necessarily held him. I think the Bulls just held him to what his averages were. He was 17 a game in that series. He's a career average of 18 a game. So I think Reggie Miller, he just hit big shots in the moment, and those highlights have elevated him to a different level. Do I think he's a Hall of Famer? Yeah, because like I said, I think he was awesome at running off screens. But basically, there's a couple ways to score. Here are the ways to score. You can break your man down off the dribble. You know what I mean? And you can run a post up, and everything's derivative off this. Or you can run off screens. Reggie Miller didn't have either ability to break his man off the dribble or post up, so he was an awesome screen runner. I just like what I don't like is, well, 2 reasons. This is the reason why I'm picking 98 over 14. One is they didn't seem like they had the same will. They seemed like when they played the year before, they took the Heat to 7. They had a lead on the Heat. That 66 win team Heat was a much better Heat team, as we saw in the finals, versus the 54 win team the next year that got blown out by the Spurs in 5. Um, and that Heat just broke their will. They stole game 1, and then the Pacers just played catch up, and they were just happy winning at home. Seemed like they had no urgency to win on the road. And the ultimate reason why I'm going to pick them over theirs is because Frank Vogel is not a good NBA coach. I don't care that he won a ring. That was AD and LeBron, and that was LeBron running that team. I don't think Frank Vogel is a good coach. I think Larry Bird is a much better coach. Not only do I think Larry Bird's a much better coach, his main assistant coach was Rick Carlisle. Rick Carlisle's an awesome fucking coach. So that's where I would go with on that. I have to go with the 98 Pacers over that because I like their coaching better, and that's kind of where I fall on that. So moving on is the 98 Pacers. The next team up, we have the 04 Pacers, which I really loved their roster. I thought this team would win a title. They were 9th in offensive rating, 3rd in defensive rating, 3rd in net rating. They beat the Celtics in 4. Then they beat the Heat in 6. Then they lost to the Pistons in 6. Um, some of their core guys were Ron Artest, Jermaine O'Neal, Reggie Miller, Al Harrington, Jamal Tinsley, Anthony Johnson, Jeff Foster, uh, and that's really about it. And then we have the 2000 who went to the finals Pacers. They went 56 and 26. They were 1st in offensive rating, 13 in defensive rating. By the way, I just want to let you know, I was stunned that in 99 2000, the Pacers were the 1st in offensive rated team. And they were 6th overall in net rating. They beat the Bucks in 5. They beat the Sixers in 6. They beat the Knicks in 6. And then they lost to the Lakers in 6. Some of their key guys were Rose, Miller, Davis, Jackson, Crozier, Rick Smith, Travis Best, Sam Perkins, Derek McKee. We'll throw it to you, Nick. Who you got over the 2000 Pacers or the 2004 Pacers?
All right, so this is tough. part of me feels like '04 has better players, but I'm going with 2000. I'm going with
Okay.
2000. This is based on what they did in the playoffs. This is based on the fact that they were able to at least steal two victories from the Lakers. This is a team that still has. I mean, he wasn't clutched in, but they still got the Miller, Tom, Reggie. I mean, it's not an easy decision for me, but yeah, I'm going with 2000 is based on their success in the postseason.
What about you, JT? Who you got? 2000 Pacers or '04 Pacers?
I feel like y'all gonna know this is a real common thing with me, but I'm going with the with the '04 Pacers, and that's mostly due to their defensive prowess. I feel like in order to be the best, it's almost impossible in NBA history. It's almost nearly impossible to get past an elite defense, no matter how good you are offensively with an elite defense yourself. It's almost recorded in history impossible. But the only reason I honestly believe the '04 Pacers didn't make the NBA championship is because they ran into a team with just as good as a defense themselves, and an '04 Pistons team that were better defensively than them. I don't feel like the Indiana Pacers are nowhere near as good defensively as them. They were not. And I feel like we're talking about a guy again, Reggie Miller. Um, the 98 Bulls slowed him down to his averages, even though he's known again to rise against these great defenses. Um, and I feel like ultimately the Indiana Pacers are going to do a great job with doing that. If you notice that Pistons series, it was a very low scoring game. And I feel like that's how this is going to go. And I feel like it's ultimately going to come down to boards. It's just going to come down to who's the most who hustles the most. And I feel like the '04 Pacers have that.
Okay. I'm going to go with the '04 Pacers too, and I want to bring in another wrinkle that I don't think enough people bring up. While I agree that normally a top 10 defense is who wins, and great defenses are what's hard to win. What nobody ever brings up though is dominant scorer wins. Since the NBA invented the 3-point line, only one team has won without having a guy who averaged 25 points or more in his career at some point, and that was the '04 Pistons. So yeah, the Pacers have a better scorer in Jermaine O'Neal. They have a better defense overall as well. Um, yeah, I would go with the '04 Pacers as well. So that brings up a championship round of '04 Pacers versus the '98 Pacers. JT, who you got?
Oh, that's tough. It's mostly because of my last points as well, and also with the point that you said they have a better score, Jermaine O'Neal. They were better defensively, and I feel like it's just going to be another low scoring series. And it's just going to come down to who has the more dominant score, who hustles, who's on the boards more. And the Pacers, again, they have that over the '98 Pacers.
Normally, too, in lower scoring series, the post presence plays more of a factor in that as well. So, what about you, Nick? Who you got?
Mm, uh, '04.
You got the '04 Pacers too?
Yeah, I do. I got the '04 Pacers. Similar reasons. We need the dominant score in order to win. Um, I said it before. I do definitely. I feel as though that team is better. Like I feel as though, as far as when I say better, I feel as though collectively, I feel as though there's more scorers on that team. I feel as though there's more defenders on that team. I feel as though there's a wider range of scoring for that team. So I'm going with '04.
There you guys have it. We got the '04 Pacers is the best Pacers team of all time. Next, we're going to move on to the Cavs. The four teams I picked for the Cavs, and there's no set amount. We can pick whatever number we want to. I just went with I went with the 17 Cavs. I went with the 16 Cavs, so the championship Cavs and the return to the finals Cavs. And then I went with those 2 years where LeBron won 66 and 61 games. Does anybody want to throw any other teams in the mix?
Uh, I forgot which team it
Which
was. I
Cavs
believe
did you
it
say?
was either the '88 or the '89 Cavaliers. Did you have them there?
Yeah. No, I mean, so you're definitely thinking the '89 Cavaliers that lost in the
Mhm.
first round to Jordan on the shot, 57
Mhm.
wins. We can throw those
Yeah.
in the mix. I had
Okay.
To answer your question, Neek, I have the 16 Cavs that won the title, and then the 17 Cavs that lost to arguably the greatest team of all time, and then I have the 10 and 09 Cavs that won 66 and 61 games. I don't have LeBron's 07 Finals team on there. I think all
Right.
four of those teams, because I think all four of those teams would beat that 07 team.
Okay. Okay.
That's why. So I went with that. We got some comments. So I just want to let you know, the Swish says, man, we are done with the 80s and 90s. Let me put that back up there. So it just clicks. Man, we done with the 80s and 90s. But not on the HoopStorians, we're not, because that's the whole point of this. We are trying to learn about the 80s, the 90s, the 70s, the 60s, the 50s, and the whole history of the game. So we are more fluent and we know what the fuck we are talking about. So that's why I picked that. Another one in the comments. This is a good one right here, and I am with that. We're going to go ahead and throw the 92 Cavs in the mix as well. They went 57 and 25. They ended Larry Bird's run. They went to the conference finals, lost to Mike. So start pulling up some numbers, and let's see ultimately where we're at. We're going to start off with the 17 Cavs. They went, what did they go? 51 and 31. They were third in offense, 21st in defense, 7th overall. They swept the Pacers. They swept the Raptors. They beat the Celtics in 5, and then they lost to 5 in the Warriors. Some of those key players were LeBron James, Kyrie Irving, Kevin Love, Tristan Thompson, J.R. Smith, Kyle Korver, Iman Shumpert, Darren Williams, Channing Frye, Richard Jefferson. We're going to go ahead and put them up against your Cavs right now, 89. They went 57 and 25. They lost to Jordan, what was called the shot, in 5. They were 9th in offense, 9th in defense. They had a net rating of 1st overall, which, to be honest with you, is stunning for that. Their key guys were Mark Price, Larry Nance, Ron Harper, Brad Daugherty, Hot Rod Williams, Craig Elo, Mike Sanders, and Valentine. We'll go with you, JT, since you want them in the mix. Who you got, 18 Cavs or 89 Cavs?
I gotta go with the 18 Cavs. And I feel like very common to how they got beat in 89 is going to be very common to how they beat them. And that's because of 2018 LeBron James. And I feel like it took Jordan having debatably statistically his best series,
Right.
having 46 and 8 that series. And I feel like LeBron's going to have something like 38 and 8 on a team like that.
Hey, quick question though. Give us the good points of the Cavs. Why you wanted the 89 Cavs in the mix?
I just love them. I just love those late 80s, early 90s Cavaliers. And I feel like I love defense in a
I love
team.
their length. I love their length with guys like Nance, Harper.
Mhm.
I love their length. I've always
I
loved their
love a
length.
defensive team. That was the best defensive Cavaliers team that we've seen in years, and it's probably one of the best Cavalier teams defensively. Period. Up until a couple of years ago, with I believe the 2022 Cavaliers is probably one of the best Cavaliers defense we've seen in a while since then.
Gotcha.
I just love them. I love Mike Price. I feel like Mark Price is very underrated, along with Larry Nance. I love their length again, like you said.
4 all NBA teams.
They were a
Mark
top
Price.
2 defense in the league as well. I just feel like those late 80s, early 90s Cavaliers just don't get enough credit. They don't get their flowers. When people talk about Jordan's pre-finals competition, I just wanted to give them their flowers. Even though I knew they probably wouldn't beat any of these teams, I just wanted to give them their flowers.
Understandable. What about you, Nick? Who you got? 89 Cavs or 8? Tell us why you're going with the 89 Cavs in a sweep.
In a sweep?
Yeah.
Because they got brooms. No. You crazy, bro. No, I'm going with the 18 Cavs. I feel as though by the time we got to 2018, the competition, and I know people don't like that argument about the competition levels, but at the same time, let's be real. Like 89 had to go up against a LeBron type of character, type of player like Jordan. But LeBron is LeBron, and I don't feel as though that Cavaliers team would have had no answer for LeBron. They wouldn't have had no answer for Kyrie. Wait, 18 Kyrie. Was Kyrie on 18?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, not 18, 17. We're doing the 17 Cavs.
The
last
17.
year of the last year of Kyrie.
Well, I mean, that right there, you got both LeBron and Kyrie that can take over a game, a series. So yeah, I just feel as though that firepower is too much by then.
Just let you know, Isaiah Faithful, we doing good. Hope you doing good as well. Yeah, I got to go obviously with the 18 Cavs. The 17 Cavs. However, though, one thing that I do like I was just saying, a prime Ron Harper, I do think he would give Kyrie and LeBron. I mean, he's gonna make them work for it. I'll put it that way. I don't know how
He'll
much
give him some
success he's gonna.
problems. Yeah, he'll give him. I mean, he'll give him some problems, but at the same time, what's the problem to LeBron? In the finals, like you feel me? You stop him from getting 30. So what? He's still like 25, and even Kyrie with the even though Ron Harper had that great defense, he hadn't experienced a ball handler like Kyrie.
Oh, I'm not saying he's not. I mean, obviously, I have the 17 Cavs as well. I'm just saying I think we need to factor that in. It's just not
Yeah.
going to be as easy with that. So yeah, moving on, we're gonna go ahead and go the 92 Cavs. They went 57 and 25. They had an offensive rating, it was second. They had a defensive rating that was 11th. They had a net rating of fifth. They beat the Nets in four. They beat the Celtics in seven, and they lost to the Bulls in six. They had guys like Dougherty, Nance, Price, Williams, Elo, Sanders, Battle. They had a young Terrell Brandon who really didn't get enough play. And they also had your boy Steve Kerr on their team. We're going to go ahead and put them up against the '09 Cavaliers, who went 66 and 16. They had a offensive rating of fourth. They had a defensive rating of third. They have a net rating of first. They beat the Pistons in a sweep. They swept the Hawks, and they lost to the Magic in six. Which a lot of people blame LeBron, but he was averaging 35 a game. What more do you really want him to do?
Some
They
reason.
had got they had Gloria James's man on the team, Delonte West, LeBron James, Mo Williams, Anderson Varejao, Ilgaskis, Joe Smith, Wally Zerbiak, Ben Wallace, Boobie Gibson, guys like that. We'll go ahead and throw it to you first, JT. Who you got? You got the '09 Cavs, or do you have
Wally.
the
That I got Wally.
'92 Cavs?
I just feel like it's a common theme with the early '90s, late '80s Cavaliers. It's always a generational talent that just knocks them out every single time. And this isn't like 2017, bro. This isn't 2018, bro. This is 2009, bro. LeBron at his athletic peak. Bron debatably at his two-way peak. I think 2009 Bron is LeBron's third best season that we've ever seen, behind 2012 and 2013. We're talking about a Cavaliers team that was top three in defense that year. We're talking about a Cavaliers team that can shoot the three ball. They have a second star in Mo. They have an all star level player in Mo Williams. We're talking about a couple of guys that they have the defensive size. They have the rebounding. I feel like, and they have that generational talent that always knocks the Cavaliers out the playoffs during that time. And I feel like that's just it. Just LeBron James, point blank, period. The same guy that have debated statistically, debatably his best series against one of the best defensive units we've seen in the regular season period in the 2009 Orlando Magic. And I just feel like that's just way too much for the Cavs to handle, who weren't even top 10 in defensive rating that year. And I just feel like that's just way too much.
Okay, well, I'm gonna go next because I want to pivot. I think I'm gonna go ahead and go with the '92 Cavs, and the reason why is not because of LeBron. I think they're going to employ an Orlando Magic defense and show how LeBron cannot beat a team by himself. I think Mark Price is absolutely going to eat up Mo Williams. I think they're going to have no answer for Larry Nance. They're going to put him on. They're going to put him on like a whole host of people to shut them down. Weak side defense. Plus, you had like a post presence in Dougherty and all that, and Brad, who was very underrated. He only played 8 years before he got hurt and decided to do NASCAR. So yeah, that's where I think, and it's not because of LeBron. I think LeBron's awesome that year, and he showed in the playoffs. I just don't think his supporting hand. Mo Williams was an All-Star, but he was only a one-time All-Star because he was on a 66 win team. And when you win 66 games, you got to send at least two. He was only getting 17. It was all because of LeBron. He never did shit after him. He wasn't really the man in Utah or anything like that. So, and I like Mo Williams. He just ain't All-Star level. He was a one-time guy. So I'm gonna go ahead and go 92. What about you, Neek? You got '09 or you got 92?
I actually feel like '09 is actually more athletic and stronger and faster.
So you going '09?
I'm going '09.
Okay, so we're moving on. So we got both those teams. We got what so far we have the 17 Cavs moving on and the '09 Cavs moving on. That leaves us with the championship Cavs of 16. They were third in offensive rating, 10th in defense, fourth net rating. They are what they go 57 and 25. They beat the Pistons in 4. They beat the Hawks in 4. They beat Raptors in 6. They beat the Warriors in 7. They had guys like LeBron, Kyrie, J.R. Smith, Kevin Love, Tristan Thompson, Richard Jefferson, Iman Shumpert, Channing Frye, Delly. They even had Mozgov. He just didn't play as much that year. And we're gonna go ahead and put them against the 2010 Cavs. Um, they went 61 to 21. They were sixth in offensive rating, seventh in defensive rating, second in net rating. They beat the Bulls in 5. They lost to the Celtics in 6 in a game that they say LeBron quit. But what did LeBron have that game? Like 22, 18, and
Mhm.
10. So I'm saying if he's quitting with a dope ass triple double, that's pretty good. Uh, Common guys, their key guys were LeBron James, Mo Williams, Antoine Jameson, Anthony Parker, Delonte West, Anderson Vejao, Varejao, Shaquille O'Neal, Jamario Moon, Zadrunas Ilgaskis, and J.J. Hickson. Neek, we'll go to you first. Who you got, the championship Cavs or that 2010 Cavs?
The championship Cavs. I feel as though this is arguably the best Cavaliers team ever in existence. But I mean, you got reasons like they did break up the Warriors. You know, they came back from that 3-1 deficit to beat that team that was historic. They got the LeBron. They have the Kyrie. They have better players, in my opinion. They got the Kyrie that can shoot. You got LeBron that can just do whatever he wants. So I'm gonna just keep it short and brief. I'm going with 16. I'm going with the champs. Yeah.
What about you,
What they
JT?
do is magic.
Again, I agree with Neek. Give me 16. And it's not just because of LeBron. You have a guy like Kyrie Irving, who at that point was arguably at his postseason peak.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that duo, the way that they're consistently able to produce against those Warriors teams, not just in 16, but the year after in 17, when they got better defensively and they got just as more dangerous offensively with Kevin Durant, they were able to produce at a high level. They were able to both average, I believe Kyrie was nearly averaging 30, if not rounded
Yeah,
up, he
something like
averaged 30.
that. Yeah.
You had LeBron James, of course, averaging over 30, a 30-point near triple double. I just feel like that's just way too much for the 2010 Cavaliers to handle. They don't have the star power that the 2016 Cavaliers have in terms of postseason production. They don't have that second star for LeBron James that's like Kyrie Irving, who can nearly average 30. So I just feel like that's just too much.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
concur with all you guys. I think LeBron is obviously. I think 16 LeBron is better than 10 LeBron, just mentally stronger.
So
Um,
it's two
and
best
then I
players
think right, right, and
or
then I
two or
think
three.
right, and then I think Kyrie's better than Mo Williams, and I think Kevin Love is better than old Antoine Jameson at that point as well. So yeah, we got the 10. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna give them a bye into the finals. We have the 17 Cavs against the '09 Cavs, 51 wins, 66 wins. We have one team went to the finals, one team went to the conference finals. JT, who you got?
Give me 17. We're talking about a group of guys that the only reason they were stopped is because of a man named Kevin Durant and Stephen Curry. Look, they just have LeBron. The '09 Cavs literally just have LeBron, and they're not a team like the early '90s, late '80s Cavaliers who easily get stomped out by one star. No, they have that same star in LeBron James, who was still great defensively, who debatably had his best offensive season that year in the postseason and in the regular season. I feel like 2017 is one of LeBron's most underrated years, point blank, period. You have a guy like Kyrie, who this year averaged 30 in the finals. I just feel like, again, same theme with the 2010 Cavaliers. They don't have that second star.
Gotcha. What about you, Nick? Who you got?
17, they got 3 stars. All of them were doing well at that point in time. They were dominating in the postseason. They're just running through teams. What they lose like one game. Um, yeah, I mean they're pretty much the same team as the 2016 team. So yeah,
Actually, I
I
think they're a
won't.
little deeper in 2017.
They are
And so
deeper, but
that takes us to the title team, 17 versus 16, championship round. Who y'all got?
Travis. So this is hard. The reason why this is hard is because how do you go against the team that that came
It's
back
just like,
from 3-1 in the finals, but at the
Because
same
that's what
time,
we do here. We
no,
answer
no,
tough questions.
right.
it's just
But then
like
it's like it's the same team going forward, and then you lose to this team, but because they didn't added this mega star, you feel me? You remove KD, and I'm a Warriors fan. We remove KD from that team, and I feel as though the Cavaliers would have ate us that year. So I don't want to do this, but I'm going with 2017. I feel as though they had not necessarily a chip on their shoulder because they won the chip, but I feel as though coming into that season, they had that let's do this again energy. I feel as though they had a point to prove, and I feel as though the players got better. Their core, their three main players got better coming into that season. But yeah, that's what I say.
Now, what you got, JT?
2017.
I agree. I feel like 2017 Cavs are one of the most underrated teams, point blank period. They got better offensively. They were better in the postseason in terms of their translation. Kevin Love got better. Ron somehow got better. Kyrie
Mhm.
somehow got better. I just ultimately feel like they're just basically a better version of the 2016 Cavaliers. And sadly, they just ran into the greatest team of all time.
So I'm
But
gonna go. I'm gonna go with the 2016 Cavs, and this is really where it's for me. And obviously, my vote don't matter now, anyways. But I'm gonna tell you what I think, anyways. Um, it's the fact, the mindset. The 2016 Cavs were very hungry. The 2017 Cavs were cocky. You remember they were talking shit at LeBron's Halloween party, making cupcakes, talking shit. And I think ultimately that cockiness, they just thought that, oh, the Warriors will fold. The Warriors will fold when we get there. And I just don't, I don't think, I think that was the kind of their hindrance. So I would go with 2016. But, like I said, at the end of the day, who cares what I think at this point? We have voted. We have the 2017 Cavs as the best team in the Cavs history. And now we're going to the cream of the crop. We're going to the Bulls. So who I got for the Bulls teams, I had to put in 8. I had to put in 8 for this one. We're gonna have to try to run through this as quick as possible.
yeah,
I
yeah.
have the 6 title teams for the Bulls, and then I have the 2 teams where Rose had the best record in the league. Any problems? Any?
No, not at all.
Okay,
Mm.
so let's go ahead and let's start this off. We have the Chicago Bulls of 2012. They went 50 and 16. That They were first in no, I'm sorry, they were fifth in offensive rating, second in defensive rating, first overall in net rating. Their core guys were Lou Aldang, Derrick Rose, Carlos Boozer, Joakim Noah, Rip Hamilton, C.J. Watson, Gibson, Omar Asik, John Lucas, Corver, Brewer, things like that. We're gonna go ahead and put them up against the '98 Bulls. Um, they were 62 and 20. They had ninth in offensive rating, third in defensive rating, third in net rating. They beat the Nets in 3. Oh, I'm sorry. The Bulls lost the first round to the Sixers after the Rose injury in that series. The Nets went 3. They beat the Nets in 3-0. 98 Bulls. They beat the Hornets in 5. They beat the Pacers in 7, and they beat the Jazz in 6. Their core guys were Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman, Tony Kukoc, Ron Harper, Luke Longley, Steve Kerr, Scott Burrell, Bill Winnington, guys like that. I'll give it to you first, Neek, being from Chicago and all that. Who you got? You got the 12 Bulls, or you got the 98 Bulls?
This is going oh my goodness. This is gonna sound blasphemous because of the fact that I'm going against the championship team, but it's all for the state of Chicago. I'm going with the 12 Bulls. I'm going with the fact that that unit that's a deep unit. When you think about the fact that they got the Rose, they got the Boozer, they got Luau Dane, they got Noah who can grab rebounds and bring the ball up and distribute the ball. They got John Lucas, which is crazy, who can just get hot out of nowhere, just like Kyle Korver. So they had all of these different pieces and different people that can contribute. And I feel as though that's just too much offensive power. Now, I'm not saying that that team itself was offensive like that because Rose is the highest scorer on that team and he's not touching what Mike can do. But as far as the type of help that Mike had offensive,
Hey, I
Yeah,
just want to
I'm
say
still going.
this. I just want to say this to Woodage 84. In these scenarios, we're going with teams healthy just to kind of see it because it's no fun if we're factoring in injuries and all that because then you could argue that he's going to miss game 2 and I could argue he's going to miss game 3. So for this, we're always just going with healthiness, with health.
Yeah, I'm going again. I'm going with that young Bulls team versus the end of the dynasty.
I feel you. I feel you. What you got, JT?
Uh, give me the Bulls. And oh, give me the 98 Bulls.
He said the real Bulls.
Hey, I'm not wrong. But anyways, I'm going with the 98 Bulls. And I noticed the theme when I was looking at this team round by round. They did an amazing job of shutting down the team's best player. And you look at a team like the 2012 Bulls, they had a guy like Derrick Rose. The year previous, the reason mostly they lost is because the big three were just that good that year, especially in that round, is also because they had a guy by the name of LeBron James and Dwayne Wade who were that good defensively at that time. And I feel like you have one of the best defensive units in the league at that time. Of course, that's not the best during that three-peat. But I feel like the way they were able to shut down people like Glenn Rice and guys like Reggie Miller, um, guys who are known to not be bad in the postseason at all, I just feel like it'll just be like the 2011 series against the Miami Heat. Of course, not with the same star power, but with higher defensive IQ, more team chemistry, of course, than the 2011 Heat. I just feel like they'll just put down Rose, and I feel like they have enough firepower. And by a guy named Michael Jordan, I don't know if y'all heard of him, but he's a really good role player. To spark something absolutely like amazing. I just feel like that would just be a worse version of 2011 for the Bulls.
So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna go with the 12 Bulls too, and this is the reason why I think Michael Jordan in those years were vastly overrated. He was 28 a game, which I mean sounds great, you know what I mean, but for Jordan, that's below what Jordan is. He was only getting you 3 assists a game. He was shooting under 50%. He was shooting under 50% solely from two. He was only shooting 48% from two. We had lost the drive, the athleticism. His field goal percentage went down each series. He started off at 52 in the first round. By the finals, he was shooting 42%. I just think it was old team. Pippen was coming off surgery that year. He wasn't the same. You couldn't even play Rodman anymore in the fourth. He was hit and miss. I just think they had just too many problems, too many chemistry issues. I also think I'm a big Tom Thibodeau fan. I think he would salivate at defensive assignments on how to stop Jordan. Like, I mean, if I can be extremely crass, I think his dick would be hard with the ability to stop Jordan. So that's where I'm at. So yeah, I would go ahead and go the 12 Bulls as well, just because I think the 98 Bulls were clearly a shell of themselves. The next team up we have the 11 Bulls. They went 62-20. They were 11th in offense, first in defense, second in net rating. Um, let's see, who did they beat? They ended up losing to they beat the Pacers in the first round in 5. They beat the Hawks in 6. Then they lost to the Heat in 5. Their key guys were Dang, Rose, Noah, Boozer, Bogans, Gibson, Corver, Brewer, CJ Watson. We're going to go ahead and we're going to put them up against the 93 Bulls. They went 57-25. They were second in offensive rating, seventh in defensive rating, second in net rating. They beat the Hawks in the sweep. They beat the Cavs in a sweep. They beat the Knicks in 6. They beat the Suns in 6. They had guys like Pippen, Jordan, Grant, Armstrong, Cartwright, Williams, Paxson, King, Tucker. We'll go with you, JT. Who you got? 93 Bulls or
Um,
11 Bulls?
that's tough because there's a lot of factors that I take into account when you were talking about these two teams. But I'm gonna go with the '93 Bulls because when you look at that run, the main series that pops out to me isn't even the NBA Finals; it's the series against the New York Knicks. And why? Because Jordan, that was a very controversial series for him in the sense that that defense did a fantastic job of limiting him, especially from that. People thought Michael Jordan was Jesus Christ at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So for the New York Knicks to shut him down the way he did, but there's another guy by the name of Scottie Pippen who during that time Of course, in years later, he wouldn't be as good as he would in the postseason as years previous. But around that time, Scottie Pippen was the guy that you would always hang on to. That could give you 30 if he wanted to. If he needed to, he could do that. But consistently give you about 22 to 24 on six plus rebounds and six plus assists. I feel like if the Bulls, yes, if they were to shut down Jordan, I feel like they would do a pretty good job at slowing him down. Of course, I don't believe they would do as good as a job as the 93 Knicks, but I feel like Scottie Pippen, in terms of how he stepped up in that series against the Knicks, I feel like it would be the same thing with the 2011 Bulls.
What you got, Neek?
I'm going with the 93 Bulls. I mean, they're what, number 2 in offense, 7 in defense, and they won a title. I mean,
Second overall in net rating. Yeah.
second, yeah. I mean, for me, that says it all as far as the caliber of a team that was at that point in time.
Yeah, for me, it is I'm gonna give you all a little secret. I think the '93 Bulls is the best Bulls team that there is, because I think that is the best Jordan that there is. Jordan was what, 41 in the finals, 35 overall for the playoffs,
Mhm.
7 and 6, 2 steals, a block. He shot 39% from three in the finals. I mean, not in the finals, in the playoffs, with 4 attempts a game, which is a shitload for back then, especially a lot for a Jordan. Um, I watched prime LeBron. I don't think LeBron was nearly he was the better athlete, but I don't think he was nearly the defense player that Jordan or Pippen was. LeBron held Rose to 6% shooting in that series in 2011. So I don't know what they would do against Pippen and Jordan. And somebody that everybody always forgets, and I know one's in the Hall of Fame and one's not, and I will die on this fucking hill. Horace Grant is a better player than Dennis Rodman. And I don't give a fuck what anybody says. I watched them. I saw the numbers, but I'm just saying one's in the Hall of Fame and one's not. So I understand why the argument is. But yeah, they had a better power forward in Horace Grant as well. So I'm going to go ahead and go 93 Bulls as well. The next matchup we're going to go ahead and we're going to do the 97 Bulls. They went 69 and 13. They were first in offense, fourth in defense, first overall. They beat the Bullets in a sweep. They beat the Hawks in 5. They beat the Heat in 5. They beat the Jazz in 6. Their core guys were the same as 98, pretty much Jordan, Pippen, Rodman, Harper, Longley, Kukoc, Kerr, RIP, Bison Deli, or Brian Williams. And that's what we got for 97. We have and then we're going to go ahead and we'll go with the 91 Bulls, the first title team. They went 61 and 21. They had an offensive rating of first, defensive rating of seventh, first overall net rating. They swept the Knicks. As Charles Barkley put in his autobiography, they whipped our ass in 5. And then they swept the defending champs, the Pistons, and then they toppled the Lakers in 5. Their core guys were Pippen, Jordan, Grant, Cartwright, Paxson, Armstrong, Hodges, Purdue, Livingston. We'll go with you again, Neek. Who you got, 91 Bulls or 97 Bulls?
As tough as this, I'm going with the 91 Bulls. I'm going with even though they didn't win as many games, I'm going with them because of the fact that this is them getting over the hump. This is Jordan showing that I'm here now. Well, he had already shown I was here, but this is Jordan showing that I got a squad with me now too. You feel me? Scotty is coming out showing that I can do this. John Paxson is sticking defense, and he hitting threes. I just feel like that unit was a very tough and put together unit, and that toughness, that grit is what helped them. So I'm going with the 91 Bulls.
What you got, JT?
Giving another 191 Bulls. And in terms of consistency, I'm giving this, and also because of that Knicks series, I'm giving it because Jordan, that's probably his best playoff run statistically in terms of consistency, in terms of resilience, in terms of playmaking, scoring, defense. He did everything almost at an all-time great level. And I feel like Pippen was also at his best. Horace Grant, like you said, like somehow underrated and lost in a lot of NBA conversations. I just feel like that team, Jordan at the level he was playing at, Pippen at the level he was playing at, Horace Grant, for how underrated he is as a talent, how all-time great they are on the offense. One of the best offensive teams that we've seen, period, point blank. I just feel like as an offensive unit, the 97 Bulls, pretty much got an older, worse version of him on his team. They're not figuring out how to stop 91 Jordan.
Yeah, and then I'll co-sign on that. I think Jordan's so much better. Just a quick thing. What was Jordan? I think Jordan was 31 points, 11 assists in the finals, 6 or 7 boards. He was 3 steals and about a block and a half, shooting 55%. And then in '97, he was like 32, 7, 6 with a steal, shooting 45%. So that's just the difference for me. So we got the '91 Bulls moving on. After that, let's go ahead and we're gonna go ahead and go with the '96 Bulls. They went 72-10. They had the first in offensive rating, first in defensive rating, first in net rating. They swept the Heat. They beat the Knicks in 5s. They swept the Magic. They beat the Sonics in 6. Their key guys were Pippen, Jordan, Rodman, Kukoc, Harper, Longley, Kerr, Winnington. Um, and then we're going to go ahead and put them against the '92 Bulls, who went 67-15. They were first in offense, fourth in defense, first overall, swept the Heat. Um, there's a theme there. They beat the Knicks in 7, theme there. Second round, beat Cavs in 6 and beat the Blazers in 6 as well. Their core guys were the same as before: Jordan, Pippen, Grant, Cartwright, Paxson, Armstrong, Williams, Livingston. You know what's really weird about if you ever look at the first Bulls, first 3 and their second three-peat, they keep pretty much the top 9, 10 guys each one of the 3 runs, and you just don't really see that much. And then Phil
which is
kind of did.
smart.
I agree. And Phil kind of did the same thing too in LA. They kept a lot of the core guys, but we'll go ahead and go with you, JT, first. Who you got? You got the '92 Bulls or the '96 Bulls?
That surprisingly is up in the air for me because I want to be worried about the Bulls because of Jordan. And I'm going off of how these players performed in these particular seasons. And I want to be worried about the '96 Bulls because of how Jordan performed in that final series against the Supersonics. And you got a guy like Pippen, who is such a bug. Like on defense, I feel like they'll put Pippen on that version of Jordan and now slow him down worse than what they did with the Supersonics. But I feel like as a defensive team, I feel like that's just way too much. Even regardless of Jordan being slowed down, they were still the best offense in the league. They were still the best defense in the league. You're better on the boards. Dennis Rodman, even though I think Horace Grant is better, he's out rebounding Horace Grant. You have a guy like Tony Kukoc, Steve Kerr who can space out the floor. I feel like that one flaw in Jordan is not going to bring down the well-roundedness of the '96 Bulls.
So you're going '96 Bulls over '92, right?
Yes.
Okay. What about you, Neek? What you got?
Yeah. Um, shit. I think I'm going 92 Bulls. Honestly, I feel as though the '92 Bulls were still dealing with a hungrier Jordan and Scotty, and just Bulls starting lineup. Period. Like they're keeping the same core guys. You feel me? So you got the same 8 to 9 players on the team with the same mentality. And it's not to take away from the '96 Bulls, but I definitely feel like there was still some gelling that was going on at that point in time as well, as far as the '96 Bulls go. Um, whereas I feel like '92, I feel like they were a little more together as a unit. So I'm going with '92.
I'm gonna go ahead and go '96 Bulls, and it's not easy. I think Jordan overall is better in '92, but I think '96 Jordan is the last prime Jordan year. I think '97 you saw the slip, '98 you saw that he had a step to lose, but you still saw the slip. And I think '96 Jordan could outsmart him. I think '96 Jordan, after the embarrassing failures of '95, was much hungrier than '92. Um, I also
Mm.
think with the addition of a guy like a Ron Harper, who was a much better defensive presence, I think you had a much more clutch shooter and a Steve Kerr with that team. There's really no wrong answer here. Like I said, I could see it going either way. I think really no bullshit. I think if they played 10 series, I think it'd go 5-5. I think it'd go back and forth. So you know, I mean, it's just kind of a coin top. They won the 72 games. You know, there's a few other reasons why, but I mean, I'll just nudge it that way. And those are the factors. Actually, I could probably find the same factors with 60 with the '92 Bulls too. So let's keep it moving. Next, we got the 12 Bulls versus the '93 Bulls. Neek, who you got? '93 Bulls or 12 Bulls?
I'm going with the '93 Bulls. The '93 Bulls, these are some champions. The 2012 Bulls couldn't even get to the finals.
Okay, we'll keep that simple. JT, who you got?
Bulls. And 93 Bulls. I don't think it's
Okay.
because of Jordan. I think it's because of Pippen. Like I said previous, with the 2011 Bulls, Pippen is going to terribly bug Derrick Rose. And that's just simple and plain. Scottie Pippen's going to shut him down just like the 2011 Heat did.
Hmm.
Or they
Cool. And
might
I'm
do
gonna
what they did to Kukoc. Mike and Scotty double them. But yeah, you're right.
right. I'm gonna go ahead and go 93 Bulls as well. Like I said, I already think that was the best team. I think that is literally the best version ever of Jordan. I think he still had the. I think he was about 5% from his peak athletically, and I think he was about 600% at his peak mentally. And I just think those evened out. Just amazing that whole playoff run. So we have next up in the semifinals match, we have the 96 Bulls versus the 91 Bulls. JT, who you got?
The 96 Bulls are just, again, too well rounded for me to be worried about them. Um, it's just simple as that. That's possibly the most well rounded team I've ever seen play basketball. And I just feel like that's nowhere near what the 91 Bulls even had to remotely contend against. A team that well rounded, because every team they played before then had a major flaw, which I feel like the 96 Bulls patched up.
You think so? Wait, you think the first three title teams had a major flaw?
No, every team that they played before the finals in 91 had some level of a flaw that I feel like the 96 Bulls had patched up.
I got you. What about you, Nick? Who you got? 91 Bulls or 96 Bulls?
I'm going with the record breakers. I'm going with the 96 Bulls.
Yeah, see, I was going to go 91 Bulls. Like I said, that was definitely the most hungriest Jordan of them all. I think he was peak athleticism right there. Like I said, I think by 93 it had dipped just a little bit, but I think 91 his peak athleticism was still there. Plus, he was extremely hungry. Like I said, I like a young Horace Grant over a Rodman. I think Pippen was better in 96. So yeah, I would go 91. But hey, like I said, fuck what I want. 96 Bulls versus 93 Bulls championship round. Neek, who you got?
93 Bulls. Now, the reason I have the 93 Bulls, because even though I love Steve Kerr, I feel as though I like BJ, I like Paxson, I like the Horace Grant. So it's like for the things that I like in that 96 Bulls, the 93 Bulls has as well. You feel me? They both got Mike and Scotty on them. You feel me? Whereas I can switch Kerr with Paxson. But we got BJ. BJ, he gave some quality minutes. BJ get you buckets. BJ out there sticking his defense. Horace Grant
BJ,
does
BJ's the opposite of old face. He's forever young face.
right. You feel me? Little baby faces out there doing his thing. Horace Grant, who's giving you the same thing Rodman is giving you, with the difference. The difference is he's actually scoring buckets as well. Um, so yeah, I just keep it short and brief. I like the 93 Wolves.
I got you. What about you, JT? What you got?
Um, Again, like the 96 Bulls.
Yeah.
We look at this team, and yes, the 93 Bulls have Horace Grant, but you look at these team, and they were 14th in rebounding. They were nearly the median in the league at the time. The 96 Bulls finished fourth. They were third from three that year. Like I said previous, even though on pure talent, those early 90s Bulls beat them. But in terms of how well rounded they are, how well they patch their flaws, give me the 96 Bulls every single time.
So, like I said, I got to go 93 Bulls. I think that was the best Jordan version team. I also think, like you were talking about, the 3-point team of the 96 Bulls, that was greatly helped by the fact that they had moved the 3-point line in about a foot and a half, from 94 through 97. So, I think with the, if they're playing with the normal 3-point line, I don't think the 3-point factor would definitely factor in like that. I think if you really look at like who was the best three, as far as could make volumes of them, because Steve Kerr could, he had selective 3-pointers, but you weren't just giving him volume. I think BJ Armstrong is a better volume 3-point shooter. I don't know if they're shooting threes or anything like that, but I just like I like the 93. I like the best Mike. That's ultimately it. I look at Mike. He's 41 points in the finals in 93. He's 27 in 96. Literally his best finals versus worst. And I think that is ultimately the difference in what it is. But there y'all go. We are the Hoopstorians. We want to thank JT next door for coming through. You know, you are always welcome back on the podcast anytime you want. Thank you, Neek. Oh, we did have a request because he is the best. People ask, like, why do you keep saying he's the best rapper you never heard of? Well, this is why.
Showed up to the function with a blunt lit, ready for any consumption till I can function. I'm dumb sick, twisted off a fifth that I cut, 2 riddles of skunk, some wax that I threw in the blunt. Filling the cup, but shorties blame the Molly and my Sunny D. About to get someone Sunny D with no drama. I come in peace, not afraid to rumble, but drama is rather dumb to me. Why would you come for me while I'm getting gummy so comfortably? I'm conscious free with a country free giving comfortry. I like the company and abundance and with a rump on me while she's on top of me. I can care less about who's watching me. I wrote some broccoli, she hopped on me, then wrote it properly. Devoted to no emotions is what we're supposed to be. That's what you quoted me. Now you're focusing on controlling me. Can't get a hold of me. The exploding's taking its toll on me. Soon as I'm reloaded, her throat is sucking the soul from me.
I'm weak.
Anyways, that is why we do call him the best rapper that you have never heard of and all that. But we
Never
thank
heard
y'all
of
for
it.
tuning in. Never heard of it. So thank you all for tuning in. We will be back tomorrow with more stuff. Like I said, JT, if you want to come through tomorrow, welcome to do that as well. So anyways, until then, we will see y'all tomorrow. We out. Y'all take care. Have a good night.
Oh yeah.